fellow Movie Crusaders, and welcome to another episode of Sean's Movie Crusades. My name is Sean Wasserkrug, and today we're going to be reviewing the latest film to come on Disney Plus, the one and only Ivan. Now, this is another one of those movies that was originally supposed to be released in the theaters, but due to COVID, got pushed to streaming. And this one is basically kind of flew under the radar for me. I haven't really been paying attention to it, didn't really know much about it. But then once I saw the cast for this film, I immediately got excited. With the likes of Bryan Cranston, I mean, Breaking Bad is one of my favorite TV shows of all time, and I love Bryan Cranston as an actor. Sam Rockwell, to me, even though he's won Oscars recently, still I feel is a criminally underrated actor. If you guys have never seen the movie Mr. Right, I highly recommend it, especially if you're a fan of Anna Kendrick. Philippa Soo, many people will know her from Hamilton. She's in this film. You know, she's incredibly underutilized. Mike White, people will know from School of Rock. Shaka Khan, Ron Funches, who's probably one of my favorite people in the world. Helen Mirren, Danny DeVito, Angelina Jolie. I mean, the list goes on and on. It's such a great cast. And then you throw in the Disney atmosphere. You got talking animals, you know, and it's whether or not will the animation of the animals talking look right or look off-putting. That's always going to be a kind of a catch-22. It's either going to look really good or it's going to look off. And depending on the story, will depend on how lenient you're going to be on whether or not the animals talking look realistic or not realistic. But looking a little more into this film, I found out that this is based off of a true story for the most part. Obviously not the whole talking animal part, but the story of Ivan. Also, this is a children's book. I did not read the book. I did not look into the book or any of the previously true stuff that happened prior to seeing this film, so I had no knowledge going into this movie, and I also steered clear of the trailers going into this film, so I literally went in as cold as possible. All I knew going into the story was that there was a talking gorilla named Ivan who was basically the headliner for a kind of a circus show that was ran by Bryan Cranston. That's literally all I knew, which is kind of what the plot is, but also not at the same time. But the general plot of the one and only Ivan is that there's this little kind of circus inside of a mall called the Big Top Mall, and it is and this circus is ran by Bryan Cranston, who plays Mac. And the show headliner is Ivan, the gorilla, voiced by Sam Rockwell. He goes out there, he roars, he bangs his chest to kind of get the crowd into it. And you have your other animals. You got Stella, the elephant, voiced by Angelina Jolie. You got Shaka Khan, which is the chicken who can play baseball, Henrietta. Mike White plays Frankie, the seal. Ron Funches plays Murphy, the bunny, which is perfect. Helen Mirren plays Snickers, the poodle. Danny DeVito plays Bob. He's kind of a lost dog who hangs out with the group. And then you also got Ariana Greenblatt, who plays Julia, and Ramon Rodriguez, where most people will know him from the second Transformers movie as the annoying roommate to Shia LaBeouf. They help Mac run the show and other things, but when a brand new animal comes in to try and liven up the show, a baby elephant named Ruby, voiced by Brooklyn Prince, the story itself starts to evolve a lot more as Ivan and Stella kind of take on a mother and father role to Ruby, and a promise is made throughout the film, thus opening the door to a darker past and a mission for Ivan to go through based off of the facts of the film. Now, if you go and you see the trailer for this movie, the trailer kind of gives away pretty much the whole film in its own, so I would avoid the trailer if you can. But that's, in a nutshell, the bare bones basic plot of the one and only Ivan. Now, for me, this movie could have gone one of two ways. It could go Lady and the Tramp remake, where it's like, okay, it was fine for what it was, but it's not something to recommend or ever watch again. Or it could be incredibly charming and something that I would really enjoy and highly, highly recommend based off of the cast and everything was going. And luckily for a lot of people, it leans towards the latter. I actually really enjoyed this film. I actually thought it was incredibly charming. It obviously helps having an amazing voice cast, plus Bryan Cranston. I also think Ariana Greenblatt as Julia was great. Ramon Rodriguez as George I thought was really solid as well. But you just like the characters. Sam Rockwell as Ivan, I thought showed a lot of a. I mean, you're not going to reach Andy Serkis Caesar levels from Planet of the Apes, but I feel like Sam Rockwell did a really good job of making Ivan a full range character through this gorilla. I feel like his emotions, the way he delivered his lines, all that stuff worked really well to fully flesh out the Ivan character. Angelina Jolie as Stella, and the parts that she's given, she's solid, but I mean, you really could have gotten anyone for that role. I don't think you needed Angelina Jolie for that. Because there's nothing in the role of Stella that really makes it Angelina Jolie-ish. I think Brooklyn Prince as Ruby does an incredible job. She's a very young actress. You've seen her in a few things here and there. I think she did a real good job. Ron Funches as Murphy. To me, the big standout outside of Sam Rockwell as Ivan has to go to Danny DeVito as Bob. I loved the Bob the dog character. I really liked his interactions with Ivan. And I think Sam Rockwell and Danny DeVito did a really good job voice casting for this role, for these two roles. You can definitely see the friendship between these two, and some of their just back and forth talk is some of my favorite parts of the film in its own. The story in itself, they do try to go a little more darker tone in certain respects, which I liked, but they probably could have hit it either a little sooner or just a little bit harder, because you're kind of on this like, oh, it's all about the circus show and trying to make it popular and stuff like that, and then it takes a hard right turn to basically these animals trying to escape. It's not like they're abused or anything like that. The Mac character played by Bryan Cranston is a relatively good guy. He takes care of his animals. He's a basically a surrogate father to Ivan, and that's kind of the one point where it's like they probably could have maybe either had made the Mac character a little more mean, which I wouldn't have really liked, but Bryan Cranston playing that role would have totally made sense. But it's just one of those things where the motivation for the creatures to try and get out and escape doesn't really match with what we're seeing on film. Now, I'm not sure if the book did a better job of that, but obviously this is a true story outside of the talking animal aspect of it. But the darker tones that they try to beat in this are effective, but could have been way more effective if done a little bit more properly or done earlier in the film. Then it kind of just felt tacked on by the end of the movie. Same thing goes with the main plot of the film. If you've seen the trailer, you know the plot of the film. It just felt tacked on because you're halfway through the film and then they finally start to do that. You think it's all about this big circus show and you realize that, oh no, it's about an escape. But just the general thought process to the escape really doesn't match what's going on to these characters, because they all seem to be getting taken real good care of by Mac, and it just doesn't match them wanting to run away to what they're getting there. I mean, frankly, these animals, in my mindset, would be worse off if they do escape than being where they're at, especially Ivan and Ruby and I mean, all the rest of the cast. They would probably, if they escape, which I'm not saying they do or not, I mean, you can look it up and find that out, they would probably die right away, in theory, if they did escape or you know, compared to where they're currently at. But it didn't make a whole lot of sense on why they would want to, because like they do get to the beats that explains why they want to, but they just didn't drive it home hard enough or make it a strong enough of a character point to really have you kind of back them into it compared to what we've seen for the first half of the film. Nonetheless, like I said, that's probably the big knock I have on the one and only Ivan, is just that the darker tones and the main plot point that they're trying to get to does not match up with the first half of the film. But throughout the film, you love these characters, you love watching these characters, the interactions between Bryan Cranston and all the animals and then the interactions with the animals are all, like I said, real well done. It's a very charming, sweet story. Kids are going to love it. I feel like parents will be able to get through it as well. It's definitely one that I was smiling while watching through most of the way through. I do wish Philippa Soh had a bigger part as Thelma, the parrot, but she really didn't, which kind of made me sad because of Hamilton. But nonetheless, I do highly recommend this movie. I really enjoyed it. I think you will too, especially if you like these kinds of films. I do think the voice animation for the animals work really well for the most part. There are certain times where they do look a little fake, especially young Ivan. But for the most part, I thought it did a really good job. I really liked Bob the dog, played by Danny DeVito. I thought his voice movement worked really well, especially with Ivan. Nonetheless, go to overall thoughts. I really actually enjoyed the one and only Ivan. I feel like this is going to be one of those kind of conflicted films that people are either going to really like it, like I did, hate it, or just kind of be like, really, Sean, you thought it was that good, kind of a film. Maybe this movie just caught me at the right moment. Maybe I was just kind of in the right time to watch this and really enjoy it, whereas if I watched it right now or a week from now, maybe I might not have been in the right mood or mindset and maybe not liked it as much as I did when I saw it last night. But nonetheless, going to my overall review score, I'm actually going to give it an 8.2 out of 10. I feel like it did, for the most part, a solid job. They could have done the darker tones a little bit better. They could have made the motivations for the animals a little bit stronger. Because I feel like Bryan Cranston's character, while he does have little moments here and there where he could be a jerk, he's a relatively nice guy. I don't see a reason why these animals would want to escape. Like I said, I never read the book, and I did not know the real story outside of what they put on at the end of the movie, so I can't say for sure exactly what happened that would lead them to do what they did for the plot of the movie, not obviously what happens in real life. But, like I said, they could have struck that home a little bit better, but for what they did, I really enjoyed it, and I think you guys will too. So, like I said, it's on Disney+. Feel free to check it out, and hopefully you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. I hope you guys enjoyed this review. If you guys did, go ahead and hit that like button. If you guys feel like this review is worth sharing, go ahead and hit that share button. But most importantly, don't forget to hit the subscribe button to the channel so you guys stay up to date with all the latest with the popular on Sean's Movie Crusades. And, of course, don't forget to follow us on all the social media outlets you see below. Coming up next, I know Russell Crowe's Unhinged came out. A lot of movies are starting to come out in theaters again. We're still kind of shut down here where I live, where there's not really theaters close by that are open. So the movies that are only getting released in theaters, like Unhinged with Russell Crowe or Tenet in a couple of weeks, I don't know when I'm going to get to see them. But if I get to see them sooner rather than later, fantastic. You'll get those reviews on the channel. If they're a little bit later than most, you'll know why. It's because literally I had no way of seeing those films. But movies that are going to be coming out that I can see, you got Bill and Ted's Face the Music that comes out next week. New Mutants comes out next week. Mulan comes out the week after that. The documentary You Cannot Kill David Arquette. Most people probably don't care enough about a review for that, but I actually am really intrigued by that story. Train to Busan sequel, Peninsula. That one is, I think I can purchase that and watch that, so definitely be looking for that, because Train to Busan was one of the best zombie movies I had ever seen. So definitely be on the lookout for that review. That one will be coming shortly as soon as I can find it and watch it. And yeah, I'm sure there's some more that I'm leaving out, but those are all movies that are on the horizon to be looked at for review, so be on the lookout on the channel for those. And until next time, in case I don't see you, good morning, good afternoon, and good night, Movie Crusaders.